Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, Black and married with kids. What's up, you all, on this Tuesday evening? I am so elated for another week, another Tuesday to be right here in your midst on Black and Married with Kids. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful day, a powerful day, because this is the day that the Lord has made. And I pray that something has happened that have always caused you to rejoice and be glad in it. For those of you all who are tuning in and may not have ever seen me a day in your life, know that I am Dunamis Tee, affectionately known to so many as Pastor Dee, as I lead, guide, coach, pray, mentor, cry with so many women across the globe because God has given me a vision, and I have founded Dunamis Woman Enterprise LLC, which is a method of how we can be able to reach so many women all over the world. And I'm excited because women are coming forth by the groves saying, hey, I understand the fact that I got power on the inside of me and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with this dunamis. And that is what dunamis is. Dunamis is a spiritual power. It's a spiritual force. It's a spiritual miraculous strength. It's a spiritual miraculous might that has been endowed within every soul. However, we guide women on what to do with it as being created woman, because only God created you to be woman. So I'm grateful for tonight because as a result of having this power, you all, we have taken a lot of hits. And we take a lot of hits because God has given us this power to be able to bring forth life. And that's why I love being on Black and Married with Kids, because you are married to a Black man. You are the giver of life. He is the planter. You are the incubator. You are the one who let that seed that came out of his body germinate, and it produces the life that God has created, which is your children. And so it's nothing better than to be in the midst of a Black man and a Black woman who have a legacy. So that's why Dunamis Woman Enterprise is here, because we want to teach you about it, guide you. However, you got to experience healing. Because of the attacks and the hits that you've taken in life, let me tell you something. Healing is a necessity, and it definitely is the children's bread. So I see people tuning in. Please tell me where you're from. Tell me what city and state you live in, because I want to connect with every Dunamis woman that's across the globe, and you are one of those, okay? So if you just tuned in, yes, I am Pastor Dee, Dunamis Tee, and I am the spiritual leader, life and relationship coach, and God has given me a vision as I have founded Dunamis Woman Enterprise, and I work there so closely as a co-owner with my two beautiful daughters, Ariel, who comes on Monday, my other daughter, who you haven't probably yet seen on Black and Married with Kids, but she's right there in the mix, okay? So I am a Black woman who is building legacy, and not only building it, but working it with her children. So that's another reason why I'm very empathic. Well, you all, I have something for you tonight that I want to just dive right into, okay? And I want to dive into it. Hey, Bert, that you're from Philly. Hey, I want to dive into it because I want you to be a part of this by asking any question that you want as I come out of the whole thing that I'm going to present to you tonight. So I'm not going to really be engaging with you as I speak, because I want to go through it, because this is a very, very serious but yet sensitive matter for me that I had to implement in my life, as I did experience betrayal on many, 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 many levels within my marriage. But I'm here to let you know that the spiritual principles, the spiritual strategies, the spiritual insight, and even my spiritual maturation has caused me to see the evidence of how to restore communication after betrayal. That's the topic that we're going to talk about tonight. How to restore communication after betrayal. Now, the reason why I say it's so sensitive, because many of us did not have effective communication prior to anything happening, such as betrayal in our relationship. So it doesn't matter whether the woman did it, the man did it, both did it. This is a universal strategy and principle that goes on both sides of the street. So I want us to be able to restore it, regardless of what your marriage have experienced, but communication, because communication, effective communication, is one of the biggest breakdowns of marriage, outside of betrayal, outside of financial issues, because we really don't know how to effectively communicate, because a lot of our pain inflicts one another, and the pain really did not have anything to do with you. The pain was what happened before you. The pain what was happening in between you. The pain was what happened before you even knew each other. But now that you've come together in a covenant agreement and made a commitment, the enemy wants to bring you all apart, okay, through the lack of communication. And once that is aborted, once that is totally dissipated, then you're really just walking around like robots, and then you'd be like, yeah, what am I still doing here? So I'm coming because I believe God for reunification. I believe God for restoration for your marriage. I believe God for revisiting some things. I believe God that you all will be able to sit down and learn how to effectively communicate, because I do know after betrayal, it can take your life to a whole nother level if you work the spiritual principles. So I want to dive into it. And so I want to give you some things that I know for a fact which takes place on the inside, okay? Now, I want you to take notes if you can, okay? Because I'm really going to get into a teaching for a few minutes. And I don't want to get into a lot of the rah-rahs and the dialogue of this right now, but definitely write your questions down. Definitely take some notes, because it's going to be a strategy and a layout and an architectural design of how this actually works and is implemented in your life, okay? And I want this to really go deep into your soul. I don't want you to look out the window right now. I want you to be man enough or woman enough to look in the mirror, okay? Because oftentimes, when we've experienced betrayal, the biggest trick of the enemy is to keep you looking outward, and you don't have the ability or looking at yourself inside, okay? So we got to take our own responsibility. We got to take our own life back in our hands by governing our soul, S-O-U-L, accordingly. And your soul is your mind and your emotions, which equal your will or your behavior, as I talk always in my healing courses, in my healing clinics, on a healing tour, because I'm on a quest for Black people, especially man and woman, to become healed. But woman, right now, it's starting with us, because I can't touch a man like I can touch a woman, because I am a woman, but I can speak to the heart of a man as well. Now, let's get going. When you're trying to communicate, anyway, you got to realize that there's some things going deep down within the soul, okay? It's going deep, deep within the soul, because the soul is our decision maker. Within our soul is where our heart and our soul, our decisions, our feelings, all of that is harbored there, because it's really going into our emotions instead of our mind, particularly when you have inflicted pain. So I want to give you the formula that I give all of my people in the healing courses and anybody who followed me. And I want you to write this down, because mind plus emotions equal your will or your behavior. So for women, we are more emotionally inclined to perceive life. Men are more logically inclined to perceive life, but it doesn't mean that they don't have emotions, and it doesn't mean that we don't use our mind. But because we are more emotionally inclined, we have a tendency to perceive in our emotions, and when life hits us, we can think we're making decisions out of our mind, and we're really making decisions out of our emotions, because your emotions start overriding your mind. Now, what you think is how you speak. What your mind is perceiving, whether it's coming out of your emotions, is where your mouth is coming from. So even the word of God says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So out of the abundance of your soul, the mouth speaketh. So when you have experienced betrayal, okay, when you've experienced that pain, I call it the sword of betrayal, it cuts you so deep within your soul, it makes things start stirring up in your emotions that you didn't even know was there. And even if it wasn't there, it starts inflicting more pain in other areas that you could start digging into, because that's the biggest thing of betrayal. But if you really knew the purpose of betrayal, it will really lead you straight to your destiny. Okay? That's a whole nother teaching. That's a whole nother course. And in order to get a lot of that, I would love for you to get my healing course, because in that healing course, we deal with a lot of betrayal. We deal with a lot of the underlying factors that you can actually go through in the privacy of your home. So I had to create a formula, okay? And I had to ask God. I said, okay, God, teach me how to communicate. Teach me how, because my husband and I at that time, we had wonderful laughter, wonderful camaraderie, wonderful things that was going on. No arguments, and I really mean that, okay? He was my friend. He was my road dog. We were getting down. But the betrayal put a bump in the road, okay? That betrayal came in and it'd be like, you know? And so it caused the communication. The first thing that leaves, I want you to notice, is communication, okay? They start shutting their mouths. Now, whether it's you or whether it's him, it don't matter. It's a universal principle. The mouth closed, okay? The mouth just shuts up. And so the biggest thing that inflicts pain, particularly for a woman, because we are talkers and we need the conversation. And if you know your love language, a lot of women's love language, first primary love language, is quality conversation and quality time. So when we're not getting that communication, it even goes deeper into our soul. And then our minds start flaring all up with all kind of thoughts and all kind of ideas. Okay, so what I did for myself, and I want to give this to you, I had to think about some spiritual principles of how God dealt with me in the midst of my own indiscretions, in the midst of my own thing, because it was his betrayal that got me to the place where I am. So the first thing you got to do, write this down. Number one, okay, shift your paradigm. You have to shift your paradigm, not on what has happened to you, but what has happened for you. Okay, now having infidelity inflicted upon you by man is what happened to you, but by God is what happened for you. Oh, that's some good stuff right there, y'all. Y'all better capture that. Y'all better capture that. All right. For those of you who just tuned in, this is Dunamis Tee, affectionately known as Pastor Dee, a founder of Dunamis Women Enterprise. But y'all better check that out right there, okay? Because you got to shift your paradigm and you got to start governing your mind. Already it hit your emotions. So we got to get that healed. But in the midst of your healing, women, we got to start governing our mindset. Okay? Because remember, your mind plus your emotions equal your behavior. So I wrote this down, and these are the things that are happening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to bring it down home to you just like that. And I put it in an acronym because I had to begin to understand, come on, Jesus, what was happening in his soul. But not only was it happening in his soul, remember I said you can't look out just the window. I had to start looking in the mirror and say, Devetta, what's happening in your soul? Dunamis Tee, what's happening in your soul? Just because you didn't do it don't mean you ain't got nothing going on inside of you. Because when you're married and connected and in a covenant agreement, what happens to him has a boomerang effect on you. What happens to you has a boomerang effect on him. You all are just like this, okay? So the first thing I had to recognize that in his soul was harboring guilt. Okay, write that down. Number one, guilt, G-U-I-L-T. So when I was trying to communicate and trying to say things, it don't matter what I was trying to say. I could say, honey, can you take the garbage out? The guilt will come up. Okay, because the guilt was weighing him down. The guilt made his posture change. The guilt did not make him feel good about himself. I don't care how much a person does something. All of us was built with one mechanism called integrity. Now, I don't know if you used it or not, but you still got it. Okay, so the first thing is guilt. So I had to recognize, I had to be able to pray for him that the guilt will begin to dissipate so he can hear the words that I'm saying. But on the flip side of the coin, I had guilt because what the enemy was trying to make me think, he was guilty of feeling guilt that he did it. And then I'm talking, the enemy whispering guilt, why you marry his behind. Then his guilt is, why did I do it? And then my guilt is, why you marry his behind. So I had to annihilate my guilt in order to pray for him that his guilt will be annihilated. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, with guilt come another thing, which is number 2. It's called regret. Okay, so he can have guilt. So now the guilt is making him feel regret that he ever did what he did. And then my guilt is leading me into regret, saying, why I regret that I married his black tail. So we both dealing with regrets on 2 different sides of the street. So now we're coming to communicate. And now we're still not hearing nothing. It's like clashing. So what takes place, I withdraw and he withdraw. So I'm the one who needs the quality conversation. I'm the one who needs the quality time. And I need his conversion, because the reality of it is, he's not only just my man. He's not just my husband. He's my friend. He's my lover. He's my confidant. And I have to admit that I missed that. Okay? I missed that. Now, which brings me back to my A. G-R-A. This is number 3. Admit. Now, what am I admitting, Pastor D? Well, admit that you miss him. Okay? Admit it. Don't be so prideful to say, well, heck, he did it. And you just go out here and do some stuff with your girlfriends. You go out here and run to every church service. You go over here and run to every party. You go here and run to... No, you have to admit 2 things. I miss him and I'm angry. Okay? I'm angry. And this is why we dealt with a lot of that anger, you all, in Unleashing the Woman Within when I was on my Healing for My Soul tour, because we don't know how to deal with the anger. But in order to deal with it, you got to first admit, I'm angry. Admit, I miss him, I need him, and I'm angry. I'm angry that this happened and brought this distance between us. Okay? Don't be angry at the betrayal. Don't be angry because he went and had sex with somebody. Don't be angry because he went out there and cheated and made you feel bad. Be angry that whatever the enemy have done, it come to bring distance between us, and I need this back again. I need restoration. I need restoration. I don't need restoration of the penis. I don't need restoration of all that first. I need the restoration of me being able to communicate with not only my husband, but my friend. My friend. Okay? You got to go back to the beginning. And then, number 4, which brings me to my next letter that I put it in, is C. Number 4 means in his soul was a lot of confusion. A lot of confusion. So the more, I remember you all just as clearly, the more I'm talking to him, it's like he was confused in his mind because my words was already causing more of the guilt. My kindness was causing more of the guilt. My love was causing more of the guilt. And the more of the guilt was bringing more regret. And the more of the regret was bringing more of the anger. Okay? And even for me, was getting confused in my mind because what do I say to him? What do I do? How do I do it? And I was trying to take matters in my own flesh, fail to realize I'm dealing with the same thing he's dealing with. How can you effectively communicate when you're dealing with the same thing on 2 separate sides of the street, but it just looks differently? Okay? So I had to understand in his mind was confusion. And sometimes the confusion is he's saying in his mind, in his soul, do I want to be with her or do I want to go to the other woman? And I'm saying in my confusion, do I want to stay with him or do I want to leave? He confused. Do he want to go or do he want to be with her? Which do he want, the woman or the witch? And in my mind, I'm saying, do I want to stay or do I want to leave him? You know, so I had to come to a place, I had to silence myself. I had to silence myself. I could not silence his mind before I silenced my own mind. I had to do a woosah. Whoo, woosah. And I had to be at peace in my own mind. And then it took me to E, okay, that I'm going to give you, which is number 5. I had to stop making excuses. I had to stop making excuses for his behavior, and I had to stop making excuses for my own behavior. I had to stop making excuses why he did what he did, which is why I can't do what I do. And I had to stop making excuses why I'm not doing what I'm doing based upon what he did, I had to stop making excuses. I don't want to go in there and make love to him because he did this and he did that. I don't want to cook for him because he did this and did that. You all, I didn't even want to iron his clothes because he did this and did that. I had a valid excuse. And I had to annihilate my excuses because I didn't want to do what I did because I was still projecting on what he did. So what it was doing is taking me out of my character. And so all of these things, you all, I had to look at, which brought me to a place where God had to teach me how to restore the communication. Now, if you really look at all the things that I wrote down, G for guilt, R, regret, A, admit your anger, C, know that a spirit of confusion is in his mind. All these things are spiritual forces, by the way. And E, I could not let the enemy keep making me make excuses. If you look at what that acronym spells, it spells grace. Okay? So instead of me looking at everything else, I said, Lord, I need your grace. And so I want to give this to you to meditate on. Because even in Romans 5:20, it talks about where the offenses abound. I want you to go look at it. Romans 5:20. It says, where there is the law, offenses abound. And this is what betrayal does. It brings a lot of offenses, you all. And offenses create the bait for Satan to just come into your home. But even in the word says in Romans 5:20, where offenses may abound, that much more does grace abound. That much more grace eliminates your guilt. Not just his. If you eliminate it in yours, then it will be eliminated in him. Oh, because it's a spiritual force. You better believe it. Take it to the bank and cash it if you can. When you eliminate it in yours, it opens up the spiritual realm for healing to take place in your home. Because what's in your heart can transcend to his heart. Remember, you all are one. Okay? And the enemy likes to keep division. The goal of the enemy is to keep a man and a woman, particularly a black man and a woman, divided. It happened all the way through the slave masters to keep us apart. Okay? So the grace is saying, come to me. Because by my grace, if you really look at yourself, okay, I'm going to wipe away the guilt. I'm going to wipe away the regret. I'm going to help you deal with your anger. There's going to be no more confusion, and you will not make any excuses. Okay? Because where you think that the offenses are, my grace abounds even the more. And sin is not because he went out there and betrayed. Sin is not in the sexual intercourse. Sin is not in the emotional affair. Sin is not in this. Sin is the fact that his mind have missed the mark. His mind and the spirit of confusion have come in to cause his eyes to detour against something else. Okay? So I want you to really hear that. And then I want you to know that this strategy works. I'm finna give you number 2. And yes, it's your responsibility is not solely on the woman. The responsibility for your marriage is not solely on the man. Who it's really solely on is the one who's more spiritually mature. Because even the word says, in Christ Jesus, there is no male and female. What God always desires from everyone is your soul. S-O-U-L. Rather that's the soul of man, or rather that's the soul of woman. My spiritual maturation was greater than his. So the responsibility fell on me for God to be able to minister to me, to look at myself. Okay? If you have 2 children, one is 18 and one is 5, and you came in your house and somebody broke something, you're going to look to the 18-year-old more than you're going to look to the 5-year-old, because the 18-year-old should be more responsible. You're not going to get on the 5-year-old, although the 5-year-old may have broke the vase. The 5-year-old may have broke the dish. But the reality of it is, you're still going to look at the 18-year-old, because the 18-year-old should have been watching over the soul of the 5-year-old, should have been watching the behavior of the 5-year-old. So the same way it happens in the natural, the same way it's looked in the spirit realm. Okay? So we have to take responsibility. And even if his soul is more mature, then he should be able to use these things, but you still have a responsibility to use them for yourself. You're not using it for the marriage. You're using it for yourself. I didn't use this for the marriage. I used this for myself. Because at the end of the day, betrayal, it bruised my soul. I had loved and I still love. But at the end of the day, I was bruised. At the end of the day, I was bleeding. At the end of the day, I was hurt. Because I had given myself in a covenant agreement, and I never will apologize for that. So I had to take ownership of what was happening in my emotions. I had to take ownership of what was happening in my mind, because the enemy wanted to use that situation to deter me from being the dunamis woman that I am. The dunamis woman who's been given a force and a strength to be able to bring change, not only into my own heart, but into my life. No matter how things go, I needed healing for myself. Can't do nothing about nobody else, but I can only take care of my own soul. And that's why I am on a quest for healing. I'd rather you came to the healing tour. If you showed up, thank you. If you want to get the healing course, please get the healing course, because all of us need healing. Okay? And that's the thing. Yes, Brian, the spiritually mature one should take the lead naturally as well. So it don't matter. Just don't look out the window. Look in the mirror. Can you please? And say, God, what do you want me to do? But to restore the communication. This is the last point that I have here. And I want you to take it, and I want you to take it again to the bank. And if you can cash it in, you would be a billionaire. Because the Bible says in Proverbs 15:1, and I love Proverbs because it's nothing but wisdom that's being given to us to govern our lives, and it works. And it says, a soft word turneth away wrath. Now that's the key right there. It didn't matter if I said, honey, can you go to the store? Or rather I said, can you go to the store and pick me up some bread? See, it's not what you say. It's how you say it. Even when you say hello, some of us can say, hey, how you doing? Hello. And then sometimes a soft word can be, hey, good morning. How are you? See, a lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So a soft word, remember, when there's anger, and the anger is centered around guilt. You see that A was the middle, G-R before, C-E up under. Anger can be centered around the guilt, the regret, the confusion, and the excuses, okay? But in the core of that can formulate wrath. Wrath in their own soul. Wrath that makes them talk verbally abusive. Wrath that causes them to go off the chain when it's not necessary. But to restore the communication, all I know is that if you take the responsibility as a woman, there's only two people in the house, woman and man. And I'm only can speak to woman because I know what I did as a woman. I am the womb bearer. I am the life giver. I am the incubator. I am the warrior. I am a dunamis woman. But to restore the communication, I had to listen to my own self. James 1 says, be quick to hear, be slow to speak, and be slow to wrath. Listen to what you're saying and how you're saying it. Well, Patricia, one must be spiritually mature to understand that word of soft wrath, but it's real. And there's no more excuses that whether we spiritually mature, immature. I had one person say, ooh, I can't do that. I'm a Christian. Well, that was an oxymoron to me because that's why I need Christ. I can't do this on my own. I need Christ. But I know one thing. He died for our healing. And that's why we all have to be healed. That's why we all need emotional healing. So if you all find it difficult to do and you got to grow into it, I listen to my own healing courses. Just because I speak it, just because I coach, just because I talk, just because I teach, it don't mean I ain't woman. I need it too. I need a healing for my soul. It's my breath. It's my life. I watch my own healing courses. I go back and revisit because when I'm speaking, it's not just I that's speaking. It's the Christ on the inside of me. So go to that Bitly, you all. Get some tools that will help you get this. Get some tools that will help you mature because your communication just not going to be restored because you looked at this on Black and Married with Kids. It's not just going to be restored because you came on here on this live for 20 minutes. Yes, I'm grateful to Lamar and Ronnie Tyler for giving me this opportunity, but it's an opportunity to lead and guide you to a place where you can get more and more and more. So go to that Bitly. The healing course, number 1 is $10. If you get number 2, it's $20. And if you get number 3, it's $25. Okay? You spend that at McDonald's. But you have it all the time to sit in the privacy of your home. So go to that Bitly, My Healing Course, bit.ly, My Healing Course. Okay? And when you get it, you're going to get it. And I think if you get all 3 of them, I'm going to ship you my magazine, Dunamis Woman and Real Awesome Men, which is more nuggets of hearing testimonies of how people have endured and overcome these obstacles in life that comes to break the communication in marriage. All right? I hope you got it. Because guess what? His grace is sufficient for all of us. Where sin abound, yet that much more does his grace abound. And then the principle number 2 that I want you to always remember before you speak, understand a soft word turneth away wrath. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Lamidra, both the husband and the wife needs to work together to restore the communication through counseling. Yes, you do. And if you want spiritual counsel, if you want spiritual coaching, you know what? Get the course, reach out to me, okay? I'm here for you all. I'm not here to force you. I'm just here to present it to you, okay? But even if you and your husband sat down and watched that healing course, do you know that's like a session, more than a session within itself? Bert, I'm so glad this was so helpful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sonia, thank you. All of those who may have tuned in and will tune in at a later date, thank you. But I want you to go look at that healing course, because I do decree that your marriage not only will be restored, but the communication will be restored. I decree that over your life in the name of Jesus. And every woman that is watching, every man that is watching, I pray for you right now that you all will understand the art of communication. I pray that you will continue to move forward in your marriage. I pray that you all will be restored, and that your words will be enlightening and illuminating to each other's heart, and that the spirit of forgiveness will just permeate your very home, and the love that you once had will be rekindled. The laughter shall be rekindled. The joy shall be rekindled. The love making shall be rekindled, all to the maximum. And he shall restore 10,000-fold for what was already done in the first place. For every delay, the enemy shall pay. All right. Love you all. Be blessed and have a wonderful evening.